Hello and welcome. My name is Jennifer Alia, and I am the founder of the Aurelius Cabrini Homeschool Resource Center. I'm so glad to be here as a part of Global Learn Day 2018 and hope that you've been enjoying your day. I'm going to speak today about building a culture of education in your home. So I want to start first with talking about what is education. We all know that education is important, and that's one of the missions of Global Learn Day, to promote education and to bring access to education. But we don't always understand what education really is. Often we equate education with schooling. Now, school is a place where education can happen, but school does not equal education. And education is a chance to learn and broaden your horizons and make that part of your personal life and your personal lexicon, your personal understanding. So education is far beyond just checking off the boxes. Education is actually going out and experiencing information and bringing it in and owning it, being able to use it. And education is something that never ends. All of us began our education before we were even born. We learned to recognize voices, to recognize movement. We learned to suck our thumb, to do bodily functions. Our brain and our body was learning long before we were even born. So an education is not something that starts at 5 and ends when you get your high school diploma or you get your bachelor's degree or your master's or your doctorate, or there's no end point to an education unless you allow it to end. An education really should be a lifelong experience. And if you think of your life, there's that saying, learn something new every day. You really should be learning something new every day. And life presents opportunities to us to learn something new every day. The choice is ours to take those opportunities and actually learn it. So an education is not simply meeting requirements and moving on to the next level. An education really is the pursuit of knowledge and understanding and building on that to ask questions and get more knowledge and more understanding, share that with others, and keep building. And as I said, it should be a lifelong process. Now, how does that play into the home? In our home and in your home, there should be a value placed on self-directed learning. The digital age has made self-directed learning even more accessible than it ever has been before. If you think back just a few generations, books were very rare and difficult to come by. Now, with the digital age, we have access to more information than we could ever process in a lifetime just at the click of a mouse. So, self-directed learning is a critical skill in our modern era, even more than any other skill that you could teach somebody, is the ability to go out and have a question and find an answer. I know as a child, when we first got an encyclopedia, that was my first experience with being able to truly self-direct my learning on a daily basis. I had always been a curious child and looking to read things, but now that I had this wealth of knowledge in, I don't know, something like 50 volumes or whatever it was, that I could access and cross-reference and just come up with a question and go down the rabbit hole of learning and learning and learning. It was life-changing. Even more so, we have opportunities now with digital classes, with online search engines to pursue that. And so I think that is so important as we're building a home culture, because every home has a culture. A culture is how you do things, how you speak, how you manage your days, what days or times are significant to you. Every home has a culture. And your culture may not be a strong one, or it may not be where you want it to be, but every home has a culture. So you want to build a culture that is positive, because that culture is what your children will take with them and bring into their adult life and disseminate into the larger culture. So that is our major job as parents and educators, is to build a culture in our classroom and our home. A home that has a self-directed learning culture is one that provides opportunities for people to pursue their passions. And self-directed learning simply is that it's not that you're being handed a checklist of what you need to learn, or you're just studying this to pass the test. Self-directed learning really is a completely personal experience of going out there and deciding what you need to learn about it and how you're going to do it. And really following your own questions, coming up with hypotheses and answering them. So incorporating self-directed learning into the home does not have to be sitting down and drilling. In fact, self-directed learning should be a personal experience, but that you provide the resources in order to do that. Now, for some of us who are homeschoolers, which I homeschool my 4 children, this is a great task. I heard someone say once that the purpose of homeschooling is so that children can educate themselves. Often it seems overwhelming to think of educating 4 children who are at different grades and different abilities and in different subjects. And people wonder, how do you do that when a school takes this many hours to educate a child, all the same children at the same level and grade or whatever. But the truth of it is that what our jobs are is to get the children educating themselves. And my children do a whole lot of self-educating. That doesn't mean that I don't play a role. I am their moderator and their director and their sounding board. But they do a lot of educating themselves. And when they self-educate, they can find ways to build on their education and follow paths that they would not follow if it were just me filling them with information. Because an education is not just filling a bucket. It's actually igniting a fire. So self-directed learning provides that spark, provides that room, that air for that fire to really kindle. In homeschooling, doing self-directed learning, obviously you still need to teach the basics. So it's not like self-directed learning totally means that they just do what they want to and only learn science forever, or they only learn math because they don't want to learn how to read. Self-directed learning still has a structure to it, but it allows them to find where they want to be and what they want to do, and dig deeper into what is important for them. For instance, my one child is very, very interested in horses. So whenever there was a subject that she just wasn't making progress in, we found a way to incorporate her study of horses into it as a motivator. But aside from that, we provided the books and the materials and the opportunities for her to decide what she wanted to learn about horses, for her to learn in her own way and in her own time how she wanted to grow in her understanding of the equine studies and anatomy and science. So over the years, that has looked at different things. When she was younger, sometimes it was just choosing her free reading books, which are always about horses, but she got to choose exactly what kind of books she wanted. Sometimes they were historical fiction, so she was getting history into. Sometimes they were nonfiction. As she's grown, we've developed whole classes around a topic that she is interested in. So equine anatomy is what she's studying right now. And a lot of it is propelled by what she wants. There are little requirements I put in sometimes to make sure that she's getting enough done now that she's in high school to get credit for it. But before the high school level, it really was a very open book, so to speak, of her designing how she wanted to do it. Now that's been a lifelong pursuit, but sometimes self-directed learning can be a short-term pursuit. It can be something that just jars your interest and you want to learn more about. For instance, my children learned that one of their ancestors had come over on the Mayflower and was one of the founding members of Plymouth Colony. So they wanted to learn more about it and really came up with a set of questions and ideas and projects that they wanted to pursue. And so we took 1 week and went through all of that for their own benefit, but also we learned history, learned science, we learned home ec skills. there was so much that came out of that and out of their excitement that really pushed our homeschool forward for a week or two around Thanksgiving one year when we really didn't want to be doing schoolwork, but they were learning so much. And it was all driven by their passion and their drive to learn more. So incorporating it into a homeschool can be easy. It can be as simple as allowing your children to have a say in their curriculum next year, choose which classes they want to take. You need to do a science, but what kind of science do you want to do? Do you want to do meteorology? Do you want to do earth science? Do you want to do equine science? Do you want to do botany or astronomy? There are so many sciences to study. It doesn't have to be narrowed down into just biology and chemistry. Or it could be designing an entire class just from one topic that they are interested in, and allowing them to really pursue that. Now, if you aren't a homeschooler, that doesn't mean that self-directed learning doesn't play into your home culture. In a way, everyone is home educated because we all have an education component to our home. Our siblings and our parents and our extended family are educators. You are teaching your child even if they go to a brick and mortar school for 9 hours a day or however many hours a day they go. You are still teaching them things. You've been teaching them things since they were born. So you can still incorporate this into your life. Instead of just answering all their questions, teach your children to find the answers themselves and then ask more questions. Now, it's easy to get answers right now, but just getting the answer doesn't necessarily teach you anything. What the bigger learning comes in the questions. What question do you want to ask? And now that you found the answer to that question, what more questions can you ask? And so as a family, if you have a curious question, which they pop up all the time, like, I wonder how many calories are in one Rice Krispie, or I wonder exactly what shade of yellow an aspen tree turns in the fall. You know, there are those little hex codes for colors. Now, those are pretty broad-reaching questions, and sometimes they're a little bit more mundane, like who invented the thermos? You can go on an expedition online or through books or however you choose to really pursue that and show your children the process that you follow to follow that self-directed idea. Because teaching them how to learn is one of the greatest gifts you can give them. And not just either dismissing questions or asking Siri or asking whatever Google and just taking it at face value. Going through that process and really igniting your children's curiosity is a special time that you will have, and it will build that culture and memories for your children. And it's a great way to start conversations and keep the conversation going. So even if you are not homeschoolers, self-directed learning and pursuing passions is a great asset to your home. Being able to pursue what you're interested in and learn more about it is a wonderful skill, and learning new skills will only serve them no matter what they do in their life, no matter what career path or life path they choose. Now, you might be saying, what if my child does not have a passion? I love working with toddlers and preschoolers because they're passionate about everything, and they get obsessed by the craziest little things. You know, they get obsessed with ants, and they want to know everything about ants and ask a zillion questions every day about ants or dinosaurs, or even water, or how the car works. Whatever it is, they want to know everything about it. They're thirsty for education, and cultivating that thirst and never letting it be completely quenched is really the key to pushing forward education and having a self-directed learning culture in your home. So as children get older, though, you may find, and if you don't have a self-directed culture in your home especially, that they don't necessarily have a passion they want to pursue. They just want to do the check boxes and get their work done, and they're not interested in pursuing anything else. So what do you do if your child doesn't have a passion? Does that mean that they don't need self-directed education? Does that mean that they have already answered all their questions? It doesn't. they still have questions. They're just not bothering to ask them. Everybody has some questions, and they may be very underlying. And once you get them asking questions, then they'll have more questions. So questions populate questions. The best way for your child to find out what their passion is to let them get bored. We have a culture that thinks boredom is awful. Now, I like to provide, resources and activities and toys and games and such for my children. So I'm not saying that you should never do that. But the whole idea of constantly being entertained. Now in America, if you go to the grocery store, there's not just music playing. There's TVs. There's interactive touch screens. There's so many things grabbing your attention. If you're waiting online, they have means of entertaining you and keeping you so that you don't have to think. But really, all of those are distractions. And sometimes they can be nice. Sometimes it's nice to just zone out and watch TV while you're waiting on a long line. But the fact of the matter is that we don't allow ourselves to get bored. We don't allow ourselves to have an immense amount of quiet where we get restless and the questions start to percolate. So my first suggestion would be to allow your child to get bored, to provide things that they can use to combat their boredom and find something to do, but don't be entertaining them. So to provide tools, not entertainment. And so you can have a workshop full of woodworking tools, or you can have a cabinet full of art supplies and sculpting tools. And they are there, but your child needs to pursue it to do it. So if you allow your child to get bored, and really, really bored, that they just are crazy and need to do something, they will find something to do. And in the process of doing that, the first thing may not ignite their passion, but in the process of doing that and trying new things and experimenting and actually having the quiet, that the questions start to percolate and they start to wonder about things and start to pursue answers, that is where they will find what they are most passionate about. And once that passion comes, it's important to pursue it as a parent, to encourage the pursuit of that passion and the information. The passion may fizzle out. They may get enough information, decide, I know enough about that. It really isn't enough to captivate my attention for any longer. But finding something that they believe in and that they are driven to know is a very great asset. And there was actually a recent study done about small children, because as I said before, small children get very passionate and they want to know everything about whatever it is that their current obsession is. And sometimes we feel like, well, they can name every dinosaur that's ever been discovered and tell you exactly which period they lived in and where they lived and what they ate and everything. But, they don't know what 2 + 2 is. I think that I'm failing them. We're talking about like a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. But they did a study and realized that allowing children to become completely immersed in one subject area for as long as they want and as deeply as they want actually furthers them educationally much more than doing a broad survey of all different kinds of topics. So I think that this really plays into igniting that passion, keeping the interest going, allowing curiosity and questions to percolate within them, and building a system of self-directed learning in the home. And it starts when they're very young. We tend to think, well, they need to know everything. They don't need to know everything. They may want to know everything about one topic, and actually science has proved that that's the best thing for them, that will give them the greatest start in their education instead of just pushing them to do lots of things. So why does learning matter? At the end of the day, why does learning matter? We have plenty of programs that exist to get different degrees and certificates and diplomas. And so why does it matter to have lifelong learning? Why does self-directed learning matter, especially if you are not a homeschooler, or if you are a homeschooler and you are following a very regimented schedule, which is fine. But why does this matter? I'm doing what they need to finish I'm making sure that they're learning what they need to learn. It is important because learning is how we grow. And when you fail to learn how to learn, you fail to be independent. Independence and prosperity come from the pursuit of finding a way to do things and learning from our mistakes and moving on. There's controversy over a quote, but it's been said that Thomas Jefferson said, not Thomas Jefferson, I'm sorry, Thomas Edison said that I did not fail at making a light bulb 3,000 times. I learned 2,999 ways not to do it, or something to that effect. And some people have said that he never really said that. But it really is irrelevant of whether he said it or not. The truth of it is that he definitely went through a process. Any great inventor, any great proponent in our culture and in our world has gone through a process and failed and come back to the drawing board, asked more questions, did more learning, and pursued on. There's no one who has made an impact on the world in any arena that has not been a self-directed learner at some point, has not pushed their learning and their questions and worked through failure. So this really is a recipe for success, and it also is vital in our culture where life is changing so quickly. The digital age, things are coming at us amazingly fast. Technology is being released that 3 months later is obsolete and replaced by 6 other technologies. Our jobs are continually changing, and people are changing careers and changing jobs at a rate that's never been seen before. So being able to learn, knowing how to learn, and being motivated to learn yourself is a key to success, prosperity, and making a difference in this world, and also security within your home and your family and your job. So I hope that you have enjoyed this talk. I hope that it's motivated you to get your family, your community, your classroom, your school learning, not just finishing the book, not just checking off the boxes, not just making it to the end, because it's not a race, it's a journey, but really digging deep and igniting those fires, finding your passion, pursuing it, finding more questions, and making a difference in the world for you and for those around you. If you would like more information, just check the after show notes. And if you have any questions, please comment below and let me know, because I'd love to come back and answer them for you. Thank you for having me here today. Enjoy the rest of your journey on the Global Learn Day.